Hello, I'm Catherine Annau, and welcome to On the Arts. Today I'm here with Lyle Rebbeck, who's the producer of the Jazz Fest and also one of our instructors at the Conservatory. Hi, Lyle.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You must be really excited. The Jazz Fest is coming up starting June 22nd, going to the 29th. Are you getting any sleep yet, or are you still working away?
Oh, it's an exciting time of year, it really is. I mean, this is the 18th year we've done it, so there's a certain sense that it unrolls, but there's always new things and exciting new people coming, so it's a great time of year. I'm very excited.
So Lyle, if you're a student of music and it's your first time at the Jazz Fest, or even if you're a returning Jazz Fest patron, how do you recommend that you approach choosing your concerts?
Yeah, that's a great question. The whole business of being a student of jazz is very different than a classical tradition where you start with certain method books and do certain scales. Jazz is still an oral tradition in many ways. So if you talk to great jazz players and you say, what should I do? Most of them will say, listen. Listen to live music. Go and hear people play. So the first thing I would say is go and listen. Find a place right in the front row, right in front of the instrument you play, and absorb the energy of that person. Look how they play, see how they approach their instrument. The other great things that you can do is go to our workshops. We've got 3 workshops by 3 tremendous players, and all very, very different. And there's an opportunity not only to listen to them, but to say, how did you do that? Well, how did you start in learning jazz? What would you recommend for me? What are the things you think about when you play? Anything at all. And these people will answer you, and they'll give you examples, and that's a great way to learn. If you've played a little bit of jazz, or even if you haven't, we've got an open jam session on the Saturday afternoon of Jazz Fest, 2 o'clock in the Esplanade. Anybody can show up. If you've got a tune that you've been working on, bring it along. We have a rhythm section there. You've maybe never played with a live rhythm section before, and all of a sudden you've got drums and a bass and a keyboard behind you. It's an incredible learning experience. So those are all Jazz Fest opportunities to increase your knowledge, your experience with jazz, but I think it comes back to putting yourself in proximity with a really great player and just watching them and listening and absorbing all that in your ear, and then go home and sit down and practice.
So if I'm interested in working with somebody who's a really great musician, I understand at the Jazz Fest you have an opportunity for that. You have a number of workshops?
We do. And they can take any form. For the most part, they tend to be question and answer. Now, if somebody is a player and would like to play and be critiqued, I think most of our workshop leaders would be open to that. They're not set up as master classes as such, but they're really open format. They tend to be people inquiring about the process of learning jazz or composing, or what are you thinking about when you play? What's improvisation? How do you play for 10 minutes and you've only got one piece of music in front of you? All of those questions that you might have about this music, those are the opportunities. And I think more than anything, it's a chance to come face to face with somebody who's dedicated their life to this music and get a bit of a sense of the essence of what it takes. The energy, the excitement around it. Because you might feel pretty lonely, you know, learning jazz on your own in any culture, let alone ours. But certainly that makes you feel more connected to that big world.
So Lyle, let's say you have some experience on a musical instrument. I understand for the truly bold, you can come out to a jam. Yeah,
that's right. And you know, that can be one of the most exciting events of the festival. It really depends on who comes and who shows up. Some years it's mostly local people who are learning the trade, but we've had many years where some of the visiting professional musicians show up, and they might sit in the back, and then they might decide to come up and sit down at the piano or pick up their trombone, and all of a sudden here you are standing next to this Juno Award winner. It's just, you know, urging you on, and standing there going, yeah, that's great, try that, do that again, good job. And that can be a moment that you'll never forget for the rest of your life, and that really encourages you to get back and you practice and you work hard. So those opportunities are there, they absolutely are. We've even had people show up with their own tunes. They've written their jazz tune and nobody's ever played it, they've never heard it. Set it down in front of everybody, anything's possible there. And we usually have fake books that have the jazz standard tunes in them. So it's definitely an opportunity, and for some of our local amateur music community, they look forward to this every year.
So that sounds like a really thrilling experience, between the opportunity to play with musicians, to go to workshops, and to hear fantastic concerts. So I'm now completely psyched, and I want to take classes. I want to become a jazz musician. How do I do that? Now, you are a teacher at the conservatory. You're used to people walking in through the door. Lots of people think that learning a musical instrument is only for when you're really young. But what if you are so inspired by the Jazz Fest that you want to take up an instrument as an adult? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And you know, I get more and more adult beginners all the time. Some of my most enthusiastic students are people who all their life have thought, I wish I'd played the saxophone. And finally the day comes when they go, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Or you might be an accomplished piano teacher as a classical player, and you thought, like, I've always wanted to play jazz. Or you might be a young person who just right from the very beginning has always wanted to do that. So that's absolutely possible. And I would approach them the way I'd approach anybody. Let's learn the instrument. Take some lessons. Let's learn how to put the reed on that saxophone, how to hold it, how to get a sound, all of the different notes, the different tone qualities and control, and all the things that you can do with a saxophone. And at somewhere along the road, if your interest is really strongly in jazz, then that's the way that we go, and it's learning the repertoire. There's a body of pieces known as the American Songbook that represents the standard jazz repertoire. How many pieces is it? Who knows, 500 or 600 probably. But we start in on the process of learning those tunes, like Take the A Train and Satin Doll, and those tunes that, you know, have become a part of the repertoire. But more importantly, jazz is about improvisation. It's about learning how to take that form of that jazz tune and then express your own musical thoughts through that. Now that can be the most exciting and the most intimidating thing you'll ever do. Because most people go, well, I don't know what to do. And then you say, well, like, do you ever sing in the shower? Do you ever hum when you're walking down the street? Like, you're doing it already. Now you have to just learn what's the parameters. And that's a big process about learning jazz. It's learning what are the boundaries, and then it's turning inside and letting that creative side of you loose. And that can be a really, really exciting process. It's no less work than learning to be a classical player at all. It's just different. It's a different approach.
So, and I understand that for many years, you have taken some of the better players, people who have some experience, once you work your way up there, and you have a lab jazz band. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a really exciting ensemble. And so really what I tried to do there is recreate a jazz ensemble, whether it's a quartet or a quintet, usually a piano and a drum and a bass and maybe a saxophone, a trumpet, something that represents an ensemble that you might find in the real working world. Whether you've played jazz or not before is not important. Having some facility on your instrument is. And then you start the process of learning how to play this music. What does it mean to play the head? What does it mean to take 3 choruses of solo? And what does it mean to trade 4s with the drummer? And what does it mean when the piano player goes like this?
What does it mean when the piano player goes like this?
It means to take the head out, which is the melody. Play it out. We're done soloing. It's time to get out. And so over the course of the number of years, so many students have gone through that group who are now on to careers in jazz and in music literally all over the world, from Paris to Toronto to Edmonton, and that's been the place where they've started that. Learning how to shape a solo as an ensemble so that it has form, just like a classical piece. You don't just stand there and play endless notes, but you think of it as a composition.
So it's not like Animal and the Muppets, just going away on the drums.
It's taking Animal and harnessing it and giving it some direction. Because Zoot's there too, the guy on the saxophone. Yeah. So it absolutely is. And it's a balance of that. It's that raw energy for sure, but it's giving it that musical shape.
So if you're passionate about jazz, the bottom line is there's a place for you in the Jazz Fest, and there's lots of opportunity after the Jazz Fest to come up to the conservatory and take lessons with you or one of your colleagues, depending on your instrument. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. If you want more information about how to take jazz lessons at the conservatory, please visit our website at www.mhc.ab.ca. And if you want more information on the Jazz Fest, please visit the Jazz Fest website at medicinehatjazzfest.com. Thanks for watching.